Hello, I am the Sump Addict Tobias Silver, and this appealingly low visibility hole in the ground is Gothic, and once you leave the dive base, look at that visibility. So the thing I'm going to talk about in this is a couple things, but the first thing I'm going to talk about is the title and why a remarkably pleasant dive is such a noteworthy thing in the UK. So this is the Gothic Downstream. It's in the system Ogof Ffynnon Ddu, and to begin, the carry is so short. A lot of UK cave diving would be described like my Ogof Ponti Meru video, which is a lovely bit of misery. So the main part of that would be the carry. The carry is always the most miserable part of the dive. And in the case of Ponti Meru, it may have been short, but it was horrendous. And in the case of other dives, which we'll get to on this channel, things like the Cwmdor 2 and the Dip Sump and various other sumps in this system, yeah, they are long old trudges. They may be easy, but they do take a very long time to go. This is a combination of the two, and it's the best combination of the two. It is short and easy. It is within meters of the entrance of Ogof Ffynnon Ddu, and the way down to the bottom entrance, OFD1, is relatively easy to bring your bottles to. The way up after the dive, less so, but, you know, it's after the dive, you know, you can spend a bit of time relaxing and do it. You can even do it a separate day if you want to, like I often do. So here I am just kind of appearing in the first air bell, and I'm going to continue following the line to get to Sump 2, which is the main part of a Gothic Downstream and is a good 250 metres long. On most dives I do in the Gothic Downstream, I tend to turn at the restriction for various reasons, be that, you know, failures, or be that because other things have happened, or be that because I have a buddy who seems to have a curse that means that every time he gets to the restriction something goes wrong. That's often actually going wrong with my kit rather than his kit, but we have definitely had a lot of trips to the end of the restriction and not going past it. But this is a dive where I actually go the full way. I go all the way to the end of line. I'm on a pair of 7s as well, and you just about hit 4ths on the way there. So back to what makes this so pleasant. Another thing that makes it pleasant is, as you may be able to see, I'm swimming. This is not very common in UK cave diving. There are a couple swimming sumps, but this one is a lovely spacious bit of passage. It's got its little narrow bits, but it is mostly spacious and comfortable finning, without being so wide that it's just swimming in a void, and that is really quite appealing to me. There's another dive on this channel, Pwthi is huge. The chambers are like, you know, tens of meters across, some of them. It is really, really dramatic how big Pwthi is. But most of the time you're diving there, the visibility is kind of, you know, 3 to 4 meters or so, or even less, and you're just swimming in a void. I don't find that particularly interesting, whereas the kind of 2 to 3 meters of visibility here show pretty much the whole passage, and I find that so much more fascinating and interesting from a kind of diving perspective. I thoroughly enjoy the kind of general size of this passage. And there are some big chambers in here. We'll get to one of them where it's, I think, 8 meters across, which is a huge, huge chamber. And it gives you a bit of variety, but there's also restrictions, and there's narrow bits, and there's little challenging bits where you kind of have to force yourself through, and that is what makes this such a nice dive. It's easy to get to, it's easy to dive, and the actual dive is interesting. So, oh yeah, the other thing, the conditions. This is diveable in practically all conditions. It may be unpleasant in its worst conditions, but it's still diveable. Some of the really good diving in the UK is very condition dependent. Pwthi Ogof, we've had years where there's just been no time in the year, well, a couple of days, where Pwthi Ogof have been feasible. Because it's so heavily dependent on rainfall, and England is not necessarily well known for a lack of rain. So this being accessible in practically all conditions. I mean, I've been in this when it's been actively flooding, and it's not ideal. The flow is quite strong, but you can fin against it. It's not the kind of flow where you'd need a DPV. The passenger side is actually big enough to use a DPV, which again is a bit of a novelty in the UK. I haven't brought one in here yet, but it would be feasible. But you can really see how this is quite nice and varied. Now, a couple minutes ago I mentioned that you can get to the end of the line here on fourths, and I kind of want to go into why I am using fourths and not thirds in this case, but also kind of go into the vague discussion of thirds being a bare minimum in only certain situations. So the first thing I want to say is obviously the person who came up with thirds is a diver called Shek Exley, who's a Floridian cave diver. And one of the things about the Floridian cave diving is that they're mostly doing it in surface accessible springs. Now, there are exceptions, obviously. There are always exceptions for these kind of things. But the average dive in a Floridian system is diving into a spring, and the flow can be rather immense coming out of them, like measured in thousands of litres a second coming out of these springs. And this means that a lot of your dives are doing upstream dives. So as you're kind of diving upstream against the flow, you get this double advantage. You get the advantage of the flow kind of impeding your way in, so you don't get as far. And then on the way out, it actually helps you, which kind of pushes you out, and that gives you just a little bit more leniency added on. And when Shek came up with thirds, that was effectively a bare minimum that was accentuated by the flow. Thirds works within static conditions as well, but it is again an absolute bare minimum within static conditions, because I mean the whole thing is that if you have a catastrophic gas failure and you lose half your gas, well then you still have enough to get out. If you've dived a third in, you'll then have 2/3 left. So if you lose half, that's 1/3. That's the same amount as it took to get in. So a very clever system all in all. However, there is some issues with it. The moment that you're no longer diving in static and you're diving something with downstream flow, it's unacceptable. It is no longer the correct amount, because the flow will affect it. And there is no hard and fast rule for a downstream sump either. So I tend to run fourths for Gothic downstream, because in low flow it can be effectively static. I do also quite like running fourths for static dives as well. I like having an extra set of reserve for time-based issues. But in this case it's fairly static. If it's high flow, you may even choose to do fifths or sixths or even higher if it's really high flow. So now I'm getting to the first major restriction, which is about 100 meters in. It's just a bit of bedding plane, and it's a little bit awkward. That little cut is me checking your gas. For God's sake, if you are going into restrictions and you're decently far from a dive base, check your gas before you go in. I have had so many times where I have seen people just soldier through a restriction, reach the end, look at their gas and go, oh, and then have to turn around. And another notable point here as well is there is the blue line tied off. Now you won't see the blue line from anymore. There is brown line now. It may look like I'm just soldering on without line. There is line, you can kind of see it on the right hand side there. It just starts there on the opposite side of the restriction, which I think is a kind of compromise so that there isn't line across the restriction. But it's something that has been changed recently because I don't like it. But it's what's referred to as a hand jump. And this idea is that when you reach the end of the blue line, you can reach your arm around and find the next bit of line, which starts there, and then go. And then on the way back, you can reach, when you get to the end of the brown line, you can reach around and try and find the blue line, and then find the blue line and go. I don't like that personally. I don't like that system, but it was what was in situ for this dive, and this video comes from about, must be 4 or 5 months ago, this dive. Since I have actually relined the passage beyond the restriction and even continued that blue line on directly so that there is no jump, removed the old brown line. So this is something I've dealt with, but at the time that's what we were doing, and that is something that can happen with UK line. You can see these slightly weird and janky setups, a lot of zip ties as well for various line repairs, and that can be interesting to a non-UK diver who dives in the UK. So now we are beyond the restriction. There's a couple of low bits. The character of the passage after the restriction is significantly more kind of low and more varied. So it kind of goes small and big and small and big and small and big and small and big, whereas the kind of passage before the restriction is kind of very slow to transition. There's also a lot of chimneys beyond the passage, which are some of my favourite kinds of passage. So the other thing you may notice as well is there is multiple lines, and this is the other reason why I spent some time to reline the passage beyond the restriction. I constantly lose the line, and not in like a kind of I lose where it is in zero visibility. Even when I can see, I lose the line in here because it's just so poorly. It was such poor condition. I was about to say poorly laid, but I'm sure at the time it was laid, it was in quite good condition. But I just think so few people go here beyond that restriction that it's just been left to get worse and worse and worse. And I've finally done something about it in the last couple of months and relined it. So if you go there now, you will actually see my wonderful relining attempt, and it goes all the way to the end. So this is the first chimney. There are two chimneys. There's also a little way on that way, which is another way up. But the chimney is the better way in, because you reach this lovely plateau at the top. So this is effectively the ceiling of the passage below, and it's just a perfectly flat and beautifully scalloped plateau floor. So you kind of follow the line, and the two join up. There is a little bit to the right of me now where that bottom passage kind of pops out there to allow you in. It also continues straight a little bit and comes up a little bit further as well. So you get to see a lot of kind of interesting passage formation here, and we're back with the multiple lines again, which has since been removed. But as you can see, this is kind of, it's a little low, but it's not crazy low. So you can still swim through it, and it's still quite nice, and the scalloping on the floor is really stunning. So as you're kind of pushing along, you're continuing to kind of slowly fin through this passage. We are roughly about 150 meters from dive base, and obviously it's about 50. Well, it's exactly 13 minutes and 12 seconds when I say this in the video. So it's probably, I know about 40 seconds. So it's probably about 12 minutes of passage of time to get to this little bit, and you see some lovely little bits of slightly horizontally narrow squeeze, but it's still not so challenging that it's difficult, so it's just a good bit of fun. Now as we kind of get to the end of this, the end of the passage is in a very large boulder choke room, and it is a good 50 meters, I believe, away from the resurgence of the system. And I'm sure someone with more time would be able to go to the end and start digging that resurgence. But frankly, the concept terrifies me a little bit. I've got a couple of dig projects at the moment, one of which is the Kundor 2 video, which I believe came out last weekend, and removing that big chunk that I got to near the end and turned at. But this dig project terrifies me because it's digging above you. Now obviously digging in front of you is fairly easy. Where's the rock going to fall? Where it's going to fall down in front of you, and then you can excavate it, you can grab stuff and move it away. If you're digging above you, oh god, where's that rock going to fall? Well, when you dislodge one or two rocks and a bunch fall, they're going to fall down, and where are you? Well, you're below it, so they're going to fall on you. So obviously that's quite scary. Now there are ways around this. You can do things like you can winch, so you can bang a bolt in and then winch it down while you're out the way and use a long distance winch, and that could be feasible. but it's still a interesting proposition anyway. So we're now going up the final chimney to the boulder choke. So we've gone from about 3 meters to about, well, I think, sorry, we've gone from about 7, I think it's 7 meters, up to about 3. And it shows quite how close we are to surfacing, really. It will just starts kind of rising up in this very kind of consistent way, and you can see the line kind of goes into these boulders and then is just stopped. It's where it's tied off, finally tied off. So this is the end chamber, and this is where I turn the dive. As you can see, that straight down chimney is really quite pleasant as well. You see this kind of vertical descent to go back down again. So this is the wonderfully nice dive of Gothic. So as I turn around, you slowly head back. We'll see a couple little points. So there's a cut to the major restriction on the way back, and you can see that brown line significantly better. You'll also better see where the blue line is finally tied off. Now my line goes on the would be the right side now, but it's the left side on the way in. You see that lovely tie off there of the blue line. I've now tied into that and continued it on. The other thing to notice as well is that this is one of the few instances where a line trap is actually preferable. So the line goes behind that massive boulder there, and in this case, when the line's the other side of the boulder, it's a habit of drifting into the restriction and becoming a massive entanglement hazard. I think it currently runs on top of the boulder, but it is a little bit tenuous. I am considering knocking a bolt into the that big boulder so that it won't drift into the restriction. But it's one of the few times where I've looked at a line trap and gone, and like come back later and it been moved to be not in the line trap and gone, actually it's probably better in the line trap. Here is another little oddity I found on the way back. A Mars bar. So this is almost certainly a snack someone has brought along on a caving trip in the streamway. It's been dropped in the streamway and it's been washed down and ended up here. Here's another little oddity. I'm kind of swimming along and I pop up into an air bell, and it is not the air bell I expect. This is a temporary air bell. It is air bell 2. And it is only available in decently low water, which this dive was, and very low water, which another dive I have video of is. So now I'm finally back to the air bell, and I make a split-second decision to follow my pink line to the upstream. There's a little cut-off in the upstream, and I just wanted to check it out and see what the line was like. This is a fairly impulsive decision, and then I kind of thought about it for a minute, as you can see me doing here, pondering. Continue on, and then I kind of go, ooh, actually, when I laid this line, the water level was quite high, and going through this was quite pleasant, but right now, oh, I don't know. I don't think that's very pleasant at all. Let's save that for another day. So I turn around and decide to go back the normal way as well. This is a fairly casual dive for me. This is what I would refer to as a fun dive. But in this case, I am actually... so that's why I could make this kind of impulsive decision. This is not a normal kind of task-based dive. I'm doing this for the love of the game, you know. So as we kind of continue on to the exit, you go through that little awkward little bit of someone, and you're practically back in the dive base already. And I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Before we end, I will quickly show you the upstream. But if you have enjoyed the video, like and subscribe for more. And make sure to have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll very quickly, for the people who haven't already gone off, give you a little peek at what the entrance to the upstream is like. You'll see me gliding a little bit. So here is the entrance to the upstream there. Do you see how it's tied in underwater? That is a deliberate choice because it is horrible.